Jamal Carter, better known by his stage name J Crush, had everything going for him. He was one of the hottest rappers in the game. His beats took over the streets. His lyrics spoke to the soul, and his name was on everyone's lips. Fame, money, cars, and followers were all his. But with all that success came a darker side to the world he thought he knew. One night, in the middle of his tour, J Crush found himself in a small city that felt more like a ghost town than a place where people lived. The venue was packed, sure, but the city had an eerie vibe to it. It was Halloween, and the air felt thick, heavy, as if something was wrong but unseen. Still, Jamal was focused on getting through his set and heading back to the hotel. The show must go on. After the concert, he and his crew packed up and were ready to roll out. That's when a strange man approached him backstage. He looked like he had stepped out of another time, dressed in an old-school leather jacket, dark shades, and a tilted fedora. The man's voice was low, rough, like it had been ground by the streets. "Yo, Jamal, big fan," the man said, handing him an old microphone. The mic was vintage, silver, the kind legends like Tupac or Biggie might have used in their prime. Jamal took it, puzzled. "Where'd you get this?" Jamal asked, examining it. The man smirked. "That mic's got power, son. It's seen the greatest. Hold on to it, and you might find yourself speaking their truths." With that, the man walked away, disappearing into the shadowy hall before Jamal could ask any more questions. His crew was ready to go, so he pocketed the mic and pushed the strange encounter from his mind. He had work to do, new tracks to record, interviews, and another show the next day. That night, though, things started to get strange. Back at his hotel, Jamal sat on the bed, his notebook open as he tried to write new bars. But something felt off. Every time he picked up his pen, his mind went blank. The words wouldn't flow like they usually did. The creativity, the fire, everything that made J Crush who he was, felt stuck, blocked. Then, as he stared at the blank page, his eyes shifted to the mic. The one from the stranger. Maybe it was a joke, some weird prank. Or maybe it wasn't. On impulse, Jamal plugged the mic into his recording setup. As soon as it connected, a deep hum filled the room. The sound vibrated through the air, rattling the walls. He flinched, but didn't pull the plug. Instead, he held the mic close, something inside him whispering that this was a mistake, but his curiosity wouldn't let him stop. Then he began to speak. The words came out of nowhere, lyrics, rhymes, phrases he had never thought of, but they sounded like him, only it wasn't him. The voice was deeper, more seasoned, like it had lived through decades of struggle. Jamal spat out bar after bar, his body moving on its own, the words flowing like a river, dark and relentless. When he finished, he could barely breathe. His chest felt tight, his heart pounding. Sweat dripped down his face as he hit the playback button. His voice came through the speakers, but the words weren't his. They were someone else's. Lines about betrayal, violence, and death. Themes that haunted the rap game, but in a way that felt too personal, too close to home. Jamal felt a chill creep up his spine. Something was wrong with that mic, but he couldn't let it go. The next day, during his set, Jamal couldn't stop thinking about the recording. Something about it called to him. Against his better judgment, he brought the mic with him to the venue. The moment he hit the stage and gripped it, the crowd erupted into screams of excitement, but he couldn't hear them. His mind was drowning in a sea of voices, voices that weren't his. As he rapped, Something shifted. His words were sharper, harder, filled with anger he hadn't felt before. He saw faces in the crowd change from excitement to confusion, then fear. It was as if the audience could feel the darkness inside the lyrics too. The sound felt heavier, almost like it was coming from beyond him, from a place none of them could see. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the temperature dropped. People started shuffling out, and some left entirely. Jamal's heart raced, but he couldn't stop. He was locked in, his mind consumed by the mic's pull. In the front row, a young man froze, his eyes wide, as if he recognized something in Jamal's performance. Jamal couldn't make out what he was saying, but it looked like he was whispering something. As soon as Jamal locked eyes with him, everything changed. The mic sparked in his hand, sending a jolt of electricity through him. Jamal dropped it, and the music cut off. His ears rang, and the world spun around him. When he came to, he was backstage, the mic still lying where he had dropped it. His manager stood over him, shaking him awake. "You good?" his manager asked, concerned. "You blacked out for a minute." Jamal stared at the mic on the floor. Yeah, I'm good," he lied, but he wasn't. That night, Jamal couldn't sleep. He kept hearing those voices, the ones from the recording, the ones that had taken over his performance. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that this wasn't over. Then the dreams started. Each night, Jamal would see figures standing over him, men in hoodies, chains, and caps. Their faces were hidden, but their voices were clear. They were rappers, famous ones, some dead, some alive. They spoke to him, their voices blending into a haunting chorus, telling him their stories, stories of betrayal, of deals gone wrong, of lives cut short. "Speak for us," one of them whispered. "Tell the truth." Jamal woke up in a cold sweat, but the voices didn't leave him. They echoed in his mind, louder and louder each day. His music changed. His lyrics became darker, more aggressive. He started losing sleep, losing weight, losing himself. One night, unable to take it anymore, he returned to the venue where the strange man had given him the mic. He waited outside for hours, hoping to see him again, hoping for answers. But the man never showed. Instead, as midnight struck, Jamal saw something far worse. In the reflection of the venue's windows, he saw the figures from his dreams, the rappers, their faces no longer hidden, their eyes filled with the same pain he had been feeling. "Why me?" he whispered, his voice breaking. "Because you have the voice," one of them said. "But the truth comes at a price." The next morning, Jamal disappeared. His crew, his family, no one could find him. Rumors spread that he had gone off-grid, but those close to him knew better. The mic had taken him, just like it had taken so many before him. Some say that if you listen closely to certain tracks in the underground scene, you can still hear his voice. But it's not the voice of J Crush, the rapper everyone knew. It's something else, something darker, speaking from the other side. And every Halloween, when the air grows cold and the streets go quiet, they say you can hear it. A faint beat, a haunting flow, the echo of a voice forever cursed by the mic. And as the darkness fades, remember, the real chills linger long after the story's end. Until next time, brave souls.